that's changed for me. Because it's true, when you are part of an organization that is trying to do a new thing, a responsibility of leaders is to look around and recognize the gifting in the people that are at your table and on your team, and go and be brave enough to say, you know what, your title says this, but this is what is coming out of you, and you should really be doing this. And so that has happened for me and for Handel and for everybody at Church of God Ministries. We have a culture of change there that we're not afraid of, because we are focused. We know what we're doing. We're following what the King has told us to do in terms of developing resources and collaborative pathways for the movement to be relevant to culture today. And so we're looking around and we're saying, who's got the idea? You got the idea? Cool. Here's the ball. Go lead that. So I don't really care what my title is, honestly. I know what I'm there to do with the gifting that I have, and I'm so excited about it. We're going to share some of that today. Hannah and I both will, as we spend time together. And I'm looking at the clock because I want to be very careful about the time you've allotted to me. Okay. All right. Don't worry. I'm not going to go on and on, but I do have some things to say to you that I believe the King is asking me to say. And I want to pause right now before I jump into the Word. You can flip to the next slide, I think, here for me. Cool. Thanks. I want to pause and talk to the King. Lord, we love you. Our hearts are centered on you. You animate our words and our interactions with one another in a way that allows us to point to you. It's true that everything good that you've called us into, and every hard thing you've called us into, is by design. And you've equipped us to step forward. And so that we know that our job is to hear you and be brave and be bold and be strong and step forward and obey. And so this morning, as I talk about you, I pray that you would silence my words and fill my mouth with yours, that my family here in the room might hear from you and forget about me. I want them to think about you. Be with us in the name we pray. Amen. Jesus is the subject. We're very careful at Church of God Ministries when we're out talking about the ministry that we're doing as a family here and as a team. It's not about us. It's not about Anderson. It's not about Church of God Ministries. It's not about the Church of God, really. It's about Jesus. And so I want to talk about him. I want to start there at Jesus. And I want to invite you to join me in the Word in the book of John. I love the book of John. It's my favorite. I love the way John has organized this chapter, or this book of the Bible, to talk about Jesus, the way he unpacks the story of how Jesus walked about the earth, the way of Jesus. And so I spend a lot of time in John, and the words that I want to share with you today from the scripture have really leapt off the page at me over the past few months and have challenged me. And I think they have some application to what we'll talk about today as well. John, I'm going to read from the 4th chapter of John, but before that, he kind of sets it up, reminding us how the band of brothers was formed, how Jesus was walking about the neighborhood, and John the Baptist was in the neighborhood and saw Jesus walk through and go, and he says, that's him. That's the one I've been talking about, the one I've been telling you about. Can you imagine that moment for John the Baptist? There he is. There's the Messiah. He's walking by. Everybody look. And at that moment, after that moment, the disciples one by one raised their heads and started paying attention to this man who was walking amongst them, and they left what they were doing and they started following him. They followed him from town to town. They observed him performing miracles and saying a new thing in an old place. It's at this point in chapter 4 that we join the story where Jesus and the disciples are traveling from Galilee to Judea. And to get there, they had to travel through the area of Samaria. Eventually, they came to a Samaritan village called Sychar. I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. I'm not reading from the gospel. Let me just say that. a Samaritan village called Sychar, and this is Palestine. It was noon, the sun is high, it was hot. Jesus stopped near a field that Jacob had actually given to his son Joseph hundreds of years ago. In fact, the Israelites, when they left Egypt, they brought Joseph's mummified body out with them, and they buried it there in that field that Jesus was now standing in. They buried it near a place of significance, historical significance for that town in the day that Jesus was standing there. He was hot and thirsty. He was tired from the long walk, and he stopped in a place that was important to the town, to the neighborhood. He stopped at Jacob's well. Jacob's well is one of the few biblical sites about which there's really no dispute right now. And probably the only place on earth where we can draw a circle around a circumference that we can say for sure, Jesus was here. The top of the well is arched like a cistern. It has a round opening that's left at the top that's about 20 inches in diameter. 20 inches in diameter, yes. It's on this arch, on this well, Jacob's well that he had built, that Jesus sat. He sat down on the arch, right at the opening of the well. I just want to point out, if you're Jacob, it's not likely while you're putting stone on stone and digging and building this well that you would have ever imagined the weary Christ walking through your neighborhood might have stopped there and sat at that well. And what a beautiful thing it is for us to remember, the seeds we sow now, we have no idea who might walk by and sit and rest and find the King. Jesus didn't sit down and pour himself a drink, no. He sat and he waited for the woman who soon came thereafter. She was not from the city of Samaria. She was from an in-between place too. He met her there on the ground of a common humanity. They were thirsty. And he conceded to her the power of conferring a favor. He said to her, "Please give me a drink." Now remember, he was alone. He had actually sent the disciples into the neighborhood to get him some food. And he starts to employ with her what I just love about our Jesus. He uses radical ingenuity in conversation. The way he talked to the people he was around startled them. They did not know what he was talking. They couldn't figure it out. So let's dive into the scripture together. I'm in chapter 4 of John, and I'm going to start at verse 9. Remember, Jesus had just asked her for a drink. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" Jesus replied to her, and again, this is this radical approach he takes in talking to us. He says, "If you only knew the gift that God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water." And we know now, she doesn't understand that. She says, "But sir, you don't even have a rope or a bucket." She's still thinking water, right? "Sir, you don't even have a rope or a bucket, and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? Who do you think you are, dude?" That's what she's saying. "How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoy?" Jesus patiently replies, I imagine, "Anyone who drinks this water, Jacob's water, will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." And you can imagine her taking this in from him and thinking, "Wait, what? What'd you just say?" And she says, "Please, sir, give me this water. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." I think she's still thinking water, right? I mean, I'm sorry. If someone came up to me and said, "Drink this and you'll be young, look young forever," I'd say, "Hey, hand that over right here," you know? I don't even know what I'm talking about. I think she's thinking literal water. He's saying, "You drink this, you'll never be thirsty again, and you'll have eternal life." And she said, "I want that." Instead of correcting her, Jesus probably sees where her train of thought is going. He does again. He says a confusing thing again. He says, "Go get your husband." She's talking about water, and he flips the script. Like, wait, what? You're telling me to go get my husband? But in the midst of Christ, we can't deny the truth of ourselves, can we? When we're in his presence, we can't. And her response is, "I don't have a husband." And Jesus says, "You're right. You don't have a husband. In fact, you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth." And it's not about the words he's saying to her in that moment. He's making a statement to her, "I see you. I know you. And you just spoke the truth." And I imagine him saying that in an affirming way. "Beautiful job. Thank you for being honest with me. You just spoke the truth." This approach that Jesus takes always, in terms of speaking truth in unique ways and approaches to conversation, it always resulted in outpourings of questions from those who encountered him. He would say something and they'd go, "Wait, what? Well, what about this?" And then he'd say the next thing and they'd ask another question because they wanted to make sense of him. They wanted to box him in. They wanted to categorize his statements to fit what they already knew to be true in their world. "I'm at Jacob's well. You think you're better than Jacob? Wait a minute. Do you know who you're talking? Where we're at and what you're saying?" This is what humans do to feel safe. It's rare that we live on the edge of faith, the edge of the unknown, the uncalculated, not yet proven path forward. It's rare that we live there. It's way, way safer for us to stay in an old place and do an old thing. Let me say that again. It's so much safer for us to stay in an old place and do an old thing. But guess not who? Not Jesus. Not Jesus. Jesus takes a different approach. Jesus shows a disregard to custom. She said to him, "You're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care. Natalie Farmer is the chief of staff at Church of God Ministries. That doesn't matter to him. He's Jesus, and I'm Natalie. He knows me. He knew her. Jesus demonstrates an intolerance for practicality. She tried to say to him, "But sir, you don't even have a rope or a bucket. And this well is really deep. Where are you going to get this living water?" She's trying to point to the physicality of the here and now, not realizing that Jesus is not bound by that. Jesus has no interest in tradition. No interest in tradition. And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, is what she says, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? She's trying to say, we're in this historical place. This is Jacob's well. You think you're better than Jacob? And Jesus doesn't have any interest in that tradition, although I think he loves and respects what's happened. He's in the here and now. In the here and now. Jesus came to an old place, Jacob's well, to do a new thing. It was by no mistake he was in this old place. He picked it. He wanted to be there at this historically significant place to do a new thing. Jesus says to her, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." Then he says, "The time is coming. In fact, it is here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way, a new way. For God is spirit. So those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Still categorizing and boxing Jesus in, the woman says, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he'll explain everything to us. She's saying, you making no sense to me. And I know the Messiah is coming, and when he comes, he's going to make all this make sense. He'll explain it to us. And I just picture Jesus exasperated saying, he says to her, I am the Messiah. I'm here. I'm explaining it to you. He tells her to go back and tell the neighborhood about what she's just experienced. And she turns and runs. And I picture her in this moment turning towards the neighborhood and running back to those she loves while the disciples are approaching Jesus with food. Some Jimmy John's sandwiches, arms wrapped, And they see this woman fly by and think, who's that, They have no idea what's just gone down at this old place. The disciples come back as the woman runs back to her village to tell her tribe she's just met the Messiah. They urged Jesus to eat, but he told them he had been fed already from doing the will of God who sent me and from finishing his work. And then Jesus says in the scripture, you know the saying, he says this to the disciples, you know the saying, 4 months between planting and harvest. The fields are already ripe for harvest. The harvesters are paid good wages, and the fruit they harvest is people brought to eternal life. What joy awaits both the planter and the harvester alike. Jacob's well, where they were standing, looks over acres and acres of green fields, 4 months away from being harvested. And I imagine the disciples looking out at those fields as Jesus is saying this. But Jesus challenged them to look towards the city where the woman had run. He wanted them to see the citizens of the town in their white garments pouring out to see Jesus and to be gathered by him as a harvest of disciples which had sprung up and ripened from the seeds sown by the woman a few minutes before. Jesus is saying the harvest is a spiritual harvest. He says to them, you know the saying, one plants and another harvests, and it's true. I sent you to harvest where you didn't plant. Hey, disciples, you're going to reap this harvest, and you didn't even plant it. And now you get to gather the harvest. The prophets before the time of Jesus, even John the Baptist, if we remember earlier in the book, had labored to prepare the people of Palestine that they might be gathered to Christ as disciples. It was in that field, Jacob's field, that the disciples were able to reap a quick harvest as these people poured out of the neighborhood and ran towards Jesus. They saw that sometimes we sow and we never see a harvest. If you look at the next slide here, these are some points that just have jumped out for me from this scripture. Things that I'm meditating on. Sometimes we sow. Sometimes you're Jacob and you build the well, never imagining the harvest that would come years later. Sometimes we build a well and never imagined it still on the edge, right? Never knew that Christ would come by. Sometimes we experience a quick harvest. And we need to be reminded of the faithful who sowed the field in order for our harvest to come. I have to say that over and over to myself. Let me say it again. Sometimes we experience a quick harvest and need to be reminded of the faithful who have sowed the field in order for my harvest to come. But all of the time, we need to be willing to do a new thing in an old place. And friends, I'm convicted and convinced that that is the moment we're in now. As the Church of God, as Jesus followers, period. We heard from Rod about what's happening over in the Middle East. They're trying to do a new thing in a real place, aren't they? And there is energy and excitement and momentum building because they're standing up and saying, this isn't the way it's going to be anymore. We're not doing it. And here in the United States and Canada, the same kind of dynamics are at play with culture. There's questions being asked that the church is not stepping forward boldly and addressing. And each time we turn and cower away from those conversations, we're becoming increasingly irrelevant to culture. And we're the Jesus people. And so it's time. It's time for us to decide that we need to work better together so that we can be doing a new thing, always a new thing, in an old place. I have deep love and respect for this movement. I'm a child of it. There were seeds sown decades ago, before I was even here on this planet, that I'm reaping a harvest for right now. And it's such an honor for me to sit at the office and with the mantle of responsibility that I've been asked to carry, to honor those from the past who've sown those seeds and do my best right now, to come up with new ideas, to do a new thing on the shoulders of an old place. And so, Jesus is the subject. Jesus is who we serve. We are responsible to get out into the neighborhood and share about him and reap a harvest out of the neighborhood and bring people towards Jesus so that they might be unified in Christ. And we have some ideas that are surfacing right now, both at the national office and at the regional level. You all are doing a big thing here too. And I just kind of want to share some of ours and point to what I believe are parallel paths that we're on as leaders right now. And you guys are focused on this region, which is critically important. And we're learning things from you that we're trying to share across the country so that others can have lessons learned as well, so that we can be more unified together and more effective. So I want to unpack a little bit about how we roll at Church of God Ministries and what we're trying to focus on. Again, we're trying to make Jesus the subject, which we believe then brings life into a room, into a conversation, into a neighborhood, into a community. If we're talking about Jesus, the light is shining bright. Next clip, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Awesome. There are 4 main ways. We get asked all the time, what do you even do? What does Church of God Ministries do? What do you guys do over there in Anderson? What's your focus? And this is the way we work to communicate with it. We have 4 buckets of focus that we really work hard on. And the first one is connecting the movement, okay? So there's a focus with us where we try to pull people together. You guys are doing that here today. You're connecting this region. And so we have events that we do. We have communications that we send out via email, or we have Facebook Live events that Jim Ryan hosts that maybe some of you have caught on Facebook before. Lots of different ways that we're trying to connect so that we can share our common language, we can share our common struggles, and we can offer encouragement and support for each other to identify pathways forward to keep Jesus in front of us and the subject. I understand you've used the acronym CDP to help focus what you all are doing here, and the C for you is celebrate. And so as I was meditating on what you all are focusing on here and what we are, it was fun for me to see the parallels that we're doing here. As we're connecting and you're celebrating, we're aiming towards the same goal. We also have a goal of reaching, and so there's a lot of work being done globally. For those of you in the room who don't know, the Church of God is about 1 million souls strong across the planet who would say they belong to the Church of God. 70% of those are not in the U.S. and Canada. We are in 90 countries around the globe, and only 30% of our tribe is in the U.S. and Canada. And so the national office, Church of God Ministries, has an effort to reach out in missional work, reach out in collaborative work, to reach across the globe on your behalf, to keep us connected and network together. Over 50% of the funds that come into Church of God Ministries go right back out the door for missional work around the world, and in the U.S. and Canada. And so it's a large part of what I'll use the word portfolio. It's a large part of our portfolio that we manage. You all have a focus on partnership, right? Partnering with one another. It's the very same kind of concept that we're working on together to lead. We also have a really strong emphasis on equipping the leaders of the church. And we're doing that in partnership with the regions. And so leadership focus is something that is produced out of our office in partnership with the credentialing bodies around the country. I'll tell you right now, as a young leader, I think the future of our movement is hinged on our ability to identify, educate, mentor, and network the future leaders coming up. We've got to do it. I'm concerned we're not doing it fast enough. Yeah. And so we are working with you in partnership. Your discipleship focus and our equipping focus is coming together in a way that we have some awesome momentum building in this area, and we need more. We need your ideas. We need to be working together you guys have the ground game here. You know the leaders in your area of influence, and bringing their names forward and encouraging them to jump in this pipeline with us is going to fuel our ability to keep this ministry alive across the country and the world. We need to work together on this, and I'll unpack that a little bit more here in a minute. Finally, this is the boring part of what we do. We help the movement work. There's always an administrative role to running any kind of operation, right? The IRS wants us to file filings with them about your credentialing status so that you all can have your housing allowance and that the churches can send out donation designations to the people who give. And that's on us to file that with them. We have a foundation that we run, the Church of God Foundation, which is an investment foundation that's actually really cool. I'd love to spend more time telling you about this, but many churches around the country invest their assets with us at the Church of God Foundation versus, another investment portfolio on Wall Street or something. They do that with the Church of God Foundation. We use Northwestern Mutual to invest those funds, and because they put them in a pool that's separate, but then all together the growth can be exponential, and the fees that are associated with that kind of thing go to fuel ministry. So, for instance, has anybody heard of the CARE program? A little bit? Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes here. But the 1% fee that comes out of the foundation funds from the churches investing in the Church of God Foundation goes to fund the ministry of the CARE program. So it goes right back out to pastors to help them with educational debt. So that's a piece of the work that we do that's more administrative and not as exciting, but it's necessary for a movement of 1 million souls who ascribe to it to have some kind of operational structure underneath. I have put a blue circle around this because in this slide here I'm representing you all as the blue bubbles here. I'm excited. There is some new infrastructure opportunity coming forward at Church of God Ministries that we're going to be sharing with you, Hondo and I will, in the very near future, that's going to allow us, for the first time ever as a movement, to connect on a platform that will unite us outside of our gathering spaces. And it's going to provide efficiency and cost for you in our local churches and the national office, but it's also going to provide efficiency and speed of sharing information with one another. So our resources will be shared, we'll be able to message each other and talk on this platform. It's a really exciting development Hondo and I are going to share more about in the coming days with you, but just know, we're putting a lot of effort into getting the Church of God into the new technological day. We have to. If we're going to attract these young leaders that I just talked about that we need, we got to play in the playground that they're playing in. And we have big plans to do that, and it's exciting. Okay, next slide. Will you turn to your neighbor and say, she's almost done, it's going to be okay. You're doing so good. Yeah, okay, thank you. Awesome. In June, did anybody join us in June in Orlando for the General Assembly meeting? Awesome. Thank you for coming. That was a really fun time. It was the first time ever that the Church of God convention was not held on a Church of God property. Forever in our history, we've either been at the Anderson Camp Meeting campground there, or we've been in a church, one of our churches, like Crossings. We were there in Oklahoma a few years ago in Wichita. This was the first time ever we ventured out to a facility that wasn't a Church of God facility. We did a new thing in an old space, in an old Omaha. And it was wonderful. We vacationed together, we worshiped together, we did some business together at the General Assembly, and it was a powerful moment and exciting for us. We drew for the first time in a long time, over 150 children came with their families. We had a children's program, and we're seeing a rebirth of young families engaging movementally with us beyond just their local church experience. And Jim Lyon got up at the General Assembly in Orlando there, and he gave an update to the room of about 1,000 credentialed and lay leadership that were in representation there about what the next 6 years, which is his next term as general director, what the focus will be at Church of God Ministries. We are ready to roll, yo. Like, we're ready to go. Yes. Hard. So, I want to tell you what he said there and catch you up, because we're out there. We out there. Okay. Next slide, please. First thing he talked about, of 4 focuses. The first one is equipping those leaders. And he unpacked 2 big things that are centered on that. The first is leadership focus, and we shared this slide with the room. We let them know, there's been nearly $1 million invested in the development and deployment of this leadership focused credentialing learning platform since it started in 2015. And that cost has been covered in this way. The participants, the leadership focused participants, have covered 46% of that cost. The state assemblies have helped with 11%. The CARE grants, which I'll tell you about in just a second, but it's a grant that we received from the Lilly Foundation, it's helped with 6%. The rest has been funded by the operational budget at Church of God Ministries to the tune of 37% over the course of the program so far. And from that, we've had 350 young, or they don't have to be young, 350 leaders graduate from the Leadership Focused program since 2015. They've all come through and received credentials in the same way, which is the first time ever in the history of this movement that has happened. From Washington, D.C. to Seattle, if you're a leader since 2015 getting credentialed by the Church of God, you had the same educational experience no matter where you were in the country. And you were connected in a cohort that was intentionally designed to network you across the country. It wasn't just people in your area. You've now got friends and support and prayer and a common shared experience from leaders across the country. And when you show up to Orlando, guess who you're excited to see? The person you never met in person, you've only seen on Zoom, who's from Seattle, but they feel like a brother to you. It's a beautiful thing, and that will be a lifelong, lasting relationship that will propel and encourage a minister in their ministry for the rest of their career, having those formed. That's just a side benefit coming out of Leadership Focus that's powerful. Right now we have 360 current participants. We have a Spanish track that's been developed where it's being deployed in the language of Spanish, which is awesome. And we had just moved the platform from what I will confess is a broken down, repeating platform of Leadership Focus into a new day. We've moved it to a new space called Canvas. And Canvas is an online learning platform that many of our universities use around the country. It is state-of-the-art. It is critical. I can't go to a young 23-something and say, come to Leadership Focus and log into this antiquated system. We promise it's quality. No, they have about 5 minutes of attention with that, and then they're done with it. Now I'm telling them to log into Canvas, and they're saying, whoa, this is intuitive. And it meets the expectation that they would have in any other area of their life, which we have to do. I'm going to use the word compete. We have to compete with what their experience is in the banking world and every other area. Everything they've got on their phone, they expect to have that same experience out of us. And we can do it. We're excellent. We can, and we're going to. Okay, that's leadership focus. Be encouraged. Lots coming from there. Lots happening. Hondel's at the helm. Handel and I are partnering with that to get that going with Jeanette Flynn. And I want to say hello from Jeanette. She heard I was coming here with Handel, and she said, I love them. Tell them thank you. Thank you for what you've been doing to make Leadership Focus fly. It's a grassroots collaborative effort over the past 5 years to get this thing going, and it is going. So much so that this has come from it. This is Life Givers. Life Givers is taking slices of experiences from Leadership Focus. If you don't have 22 months to go through that program with us, but you'd like to take a 6-week module just to kind of refresh, maybe you're already credentialed and you've heard about Leadership Focus, but you don't need to go through the whole thing. You just like a refresher on a topic that is important to you. Check out Life Givers. This is our way of catching the rest of the qualified, equipped, amazing leaders in the movement who missed out on the Leadership Focus experience. They can jump in here. Or for lay leadership, I think there's some lay leaders in the room. Maybe you don't have a goal of getting credentialed, but you want to know what everybody else is learning about how to deliver effective ministry in today's world. Life Givers is for you. And that's because of the momentum that's come out of Leadership Focus, because of the investment you all have helped us make in that. Next slide. Care. I mentioned care. We secured a grant. Church of God Ministries of the national office secured a national grant for the movement called CARE. And that was from the Lilly Foundation out of Indianapolis. It was the first grant. Let's go to the next slide. I've got some data here. The first grant was a $1 million grant that we raised another $500,000 in matching dollars to distribute. The purpose of the grant, CARE 1.0, was to assist clergy in what Lilly has identified as a barrier to delivering effective ministry. So follow me here. Lilly has said, for a community to be healthy, there needs to be a healthy church there. For a church to be healthy, it needs to be led by a healthy pastor. For a pastor to be healthy, Lilly has done the research, and they have identified for a pastor to be healthy, their financial situation's got to be under control. And if you don't have your financial situation under control, meaning you've got student loan debt, or you're not compensated enough to take care of your family and the ministry, you are being set up to be at a disadvantage in how you're able to even deliver the ministry because you're so stressed out about your own financial situation. Lilly's got the research that backs that, and they opened up this grant process that's been utilized across the evangelical spectrum in this country. So it's not just the Church of God involved in it. Many other denominations are participating as well. And we did. We jumped in and we said, that's us. We want to bring this to our pastors, and we have. Over the past few years, with the CARE 1.0 grant, we distributed $872,000 worth of financial assistance to 127 plus Church of God pastors. And what that has meant is they have come alongside, or they have raised their hand and said, I want some help. And we have said, let us help you get your personal finances in order. So they've had some free consultation from Servant Solutions. Everyone knows Servant Solutions, the retirement pension for the Church of God. Servant Solutions has partnered with us, and they have sat and given these pastors consultation on their finances. And then after that process is done, helping them set up a budget and helping them get a retirement account set up, then we have been sending them literal checks to help pay down some of their educational debt. Literal checks have been deposited in their retirement account to help them get set up with starting to save for retirement. And then there's a sliver of the grant that was for pastors in an in-between status where they didn't have compensation because they were in between ministry roles, and there's been money distributed for that. It's been a powerful, powerful experience for those pastors who've participated. And we've been able to enter into another grant with Lily, Care 2.0. We're right in the middle of that. We've identified a donor who's going to match that, unbelievably match the entire $500,000 because they believe so strongly in this. And the focus of this grant is still to provide pastoral assistance to pastors financially. But Lily has now said, okay, great, we're on a roll with this. They've identified now through this process that one of the big problems is on the church boards, their unawareness of pastoral compensation and how difficult it is for a pastor to go to their board and say, you're not compensating me fairly. The boards are saying, oh, I think we are, you're a minister, and, you're working for Jesus, and, no, that's not right. And so we want to go in partnership with the state assemblies and with the churches and the pastors to go in and help just provide some education about the pastoral compensation needs of today so that we can attract, educate, mentor, network, train the future leaders. They cannot go through school, through seminary, and get through leadership focus and land at church and get paid $25,000 a year, or 30 or 40 or whatever it is. It's not their, and they won't. They'll go work in private sector because they have to support their family. So just know, we see you, and we see the leaders of this movement, and we're doing everything we can to secure these grants and provide the education and training for the movement to address this issue. Next slide. This is focus number 2. Over the next 6 years, we are going to be, let me back up. There was an initiative that unfolded 2 years ago called Project Imagine. I'm not sure if any of you have heard that, but it was a table that got convened to have a discussion about whether or not we should be doing a new thing in an old space. And the discussion unfolded over the course of the year. Cheryl was part of that process, and many other leaders from this area as well. And out of that came an idea that was pitched by the president of Anderson University, John Pistol, who came from the federal government, working there for TSA. He said, when we wanted to try something new at TSA, we tried a pilot. We just did a pilot program of it and see if it worked. And if it did, then we would scale it up bigger. So we went to the regional leadership across the country and we said, would anyone like to pilot this idea? And the idea was centered around collective impact. If you all would write that down, I would encourage you to Google when you leave here or before you go to bed. Collective impact. Stanford University did a study that said, that identified collective impact as the model that is most effective to solve a problem in community. So let's take the problem of hunger. Stanford's saying it's not just one agency that can solve hunger for a town. You got to bring together the police force, you got to bring together the educational sector, you got to bring together the health sector, and sure, the church too. These people got to get around a table and go, how are we going to fix this? And what can you bring? And what can I bring? And that collective model actually is brilliantly applicable for the Church of God, right? We're highly autonomous in the way we're running ministry in our own areas, but we stress our unity, right? We say we're going to come to the table together and we're going to do a big thing, but even though I get to keep my own agenda, my own budget, my own way. So this collective impact model is actually really compatible with us if we can agree to do it. And so we raised the flag and said, does anybody up there want to try collective impact for the next year or so? And the leadership on the West Coast, the regional leadership on the West Coast from Anchorage all the way down to San Diego raised their hand unbelievably, I believe by the Holy Spirit, because this was not done outwardly. Everyone just emailed individually in, and who ended up emailing was right down that Pacific Rim. And they just stepped forward and said, you know what we're doing out here is not working. We're contracting, we're irrelevant, nobody's listening to us, and we're having a difficult time talking about Jesus out here. So, if you convene the table, we'll show up. And so the Pacific Coast Collective was formed. That's what this is. This is regional leadership on the West Coast that have raised their hand saying, we want to try something new. We want to do a new thing in an old place. And so we are. And that's where I flew in from 2 nights ago from Seattle, because we're building a pilot idea. And it's twofold. One of the folds is to challenge the churches on the West Coast to enter into a covenant agreement with each other. Not with the regional leadership, not with the national office, with each other. Would a church from San Diego say, I'm the Church of God in San Diego, and I am in a covenant relationship with the Church of God in Tacoma, Washington, because we are Church of God and we're together. We're going to challenge the churches on the West to do that. We have got to make a statement together that we're together before we can do anything. So that's the first part. The second part is we are developing a 1-year intensive experience for leaders on the West who want to immerse themselves in learning about how to convene a table in their community. The church is the most well-positioned entity in a community to convene a collective impact table. Why? Because our pews are populated with representation from every other agency in the community. We've got medical in there, we've got educational. I mean, think about who populates your pews and what they represent Monday through Friday before they come in to gather together on Sunday. The church is the most well-positioned entity to say, we'd like to convene that table. And so we want to train the leaders in the West on how to do that. How do you become a community organizer in your town? How do you walk into a police force and say, can I talk to the police chief? I'd like to start talking about the drug and violence issues in my neighborhood, and how the church can come alongside and help. Or I would like to talk about the reading levels of the children in our schools. And I've got a whole bunch of people in my pews that would love to sit on Wednesday mornings with them and read with them. Could we help? It's the church that's the most well-positioned to do that. And so we're going to train these leaders on the West how to do that. We're going to ignite their imaginations and bring in thought leaders from the West who are community organizers who are already doing this work, and we're going to train them on the ground of how to do a new thing. Y'all, I don't know if it's going to work. I really don't. But what you should expect from Church of God Ministries and from this group of leaders is transparent reporting. You're going to know if it worked or not. We're going to stand up in front of you in Denver in 2021 at the General Assembly, and you're going to hear us say, this group of people tried a new thing in the West, and it's either working or it's failing miserably, and we need to get back to the table and draw up a new blueprint. So, I don't know if it's going to work. But again, we're trying a new thing, and that's exciting. And what you can expect and should expect is an increasing level of transparency and reporting and communication from us about it. We're not doing it in the dark. We're doing it way out there, meaning we're going to have a website. You can go anytime you want and get a report on it and see how it's going. You can, even though you're not West Coast, you can, because again, our hunch is, if there's any kind of traction that happens from this in the West, and we report to you what worked and what didn't, your ability to have access to that data and let your minds and imaginations run with that might work here, that would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Yeah. For this collective table to keep expanding and we keep working together. That's the big idea. Next slide. I think there's another slide.
Computer's freezing.
Oh, it's freezing. I do promise I'm almost done. I think the next slide talks about the Global Assembly. I mentioned we are not just in the U.S. and Canada. We are networked around the world. There is a Jim Lyon, General Director of the National Office equivalent in each of those 90 countries. And we have been in talks and stepping forward boldly with them, saying, we want to convene a collective table with you. We want to learn from you around the world what's working and what's not in your areas. Hear me when I said, we want to learn from them. This is not the U.S. coming to the world saying, we got something to share with you. This is us humbly stepping forward saying, we'd like to hold a table open if you would be willing to come and share with us what you're learning, Church of God, around the world. us. And so I just wanted to post you and let you know that our focus isn't just in the U.S. and Canada and reigniting conversation and collaborative work here. It's actually happening globally as well. And so, those are the strategic focuses and initiatives that Jim Lyon has stepped forward saying, we're going to put our operational dollars, we're going to put our best people, our best ideas, our best inertia is going to go towards moving these things forward, even as we continue on with the other things that are also equally important that we do at Church of God Ministries. You will find us always coming back to, yeah, but where are we moving the ball forward with these things? And that's our goal. So, okay. Absent of what else might be on that screen, and looking across the room and seeing your eyes glaze over a little bit, I just want to open the floor up just for a minute. I know I talked at you for a long time. Thank you for the opportunity to do that. But are there any questions or any thoughts or reflections that you might have that I could take note of and take back to the office with me, or try humbly to attempt to answer myself? Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, actually, I covered it all. That's perfect. Luckily, there was only one slide left, and I remember what it was. I want you to know that, sorry, I didn't know if someone had anything. Okay. I want you to know that you are loved deeply by our office, by me, by Hondo. For the moment I stepped foot at my job at Church of God Ministries, I heard about you because I got to know Hondo, and I got to know Cheryl and the other leadership out here. And I just want you to know we pray for you. We are inspired by you. We want to work with you. Please let us dine with you at your table. We would love to hear your ideas and thoughts and receive any kind of reflections back to us about some of our ideas and thoughts. We want to be together. Together is better. That's our belief. And you are loved. So I'll end just by sharing one more prayer over you all. Lord, I just pray over the leaders here in this room. Thank you for the equipping that you have abundantly poured out over them. I know the impact that they have in their own areas and their patches of dirt that they represent is great. And I just pray for a supernatural covering over them and their families. I pray that you would flood them with ideas, have them bounce out of the bed tomorrow morning ready to go, remove the pebbles and the boulders that are in front of them so that they might step forward boldly, having heard from you and willingness to obey. Do not let the evil one stand in their way. Protect them. Protect those they love. Protect their marriages. Protect their children. Protect their communities. Cover them. Equip them. Encourage them. We love them and we love you. Amen.
Job. Let's give God a praise. Yeah. I want you to extend your hand towards her right now, and we're going to pray for her and her position. Gracious Father, we thank you for the words that we've heard today. We thank you for the anointing that's on her life. And we pray, God, and increase, Father God, in the name of Jesus. Guide her hands, the Lord. Order her steps. Give her favor, the Lord God, as she moves forth in ministry. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, we're so thankful for all of you that have joined us today. And we have several things. And one of the things I just want to just speak about, when she was talking about how she compared the three buckets that We're there for the Church of God, where our desire is to, number one, to celebrate you. And that's part of connection. And we wanted to come down here to Fairfax and celebrate the Fairfax community church and see all the new things and the great things that God's doing for them. So let's celebrate Fairfax right now. Then we want to disciple. We want to be in a situation where we're getting new ideas that are coming in. And Sister Natalie is bringing it, and Pastor Handel will be coming later to bring us insights and new ideas. And we want to get some of the best practices that are going on in the different churches. So I want to invite you to, and one of the things that we want to do, and we want to add a program committee. And we want to be able to have people that want to come in and say, here's what I think the district needs. So if you're interested in being a part of that program committee, I would encourage you to talk with Pastor Jeff, or just put your names down, and we're going to look at that. Another thing we're going to look at is the finance committee, whereby we have some things that we want to do from the standpoint of partnering. We want to partner with you to help you, the individual congregations. There are congregations that have had to shut down their sanctuary because they didn't have enough money to put in a new HVAC system, or a roof that was leaking so that they could not even be there. And we have, and we'll see our financial report, we have money in our savings account, but we can't just give it out to everyone, although some of it is designated for church planting. But talking to Steve Justice when I was there in Orlando, he indicated that we can redesignate that money, even though it has been designated for church planting, but we can use it for even more meaningful type of situation. And so I'd like to propose, and we're going to be looking at it, we talked about it in the elder board meeting, a possibility of setting up a finance committee where we could, the CDP could guarantee a loan from a local bank. Many times you don't have enough money. And just to give you an example of where Cornerstone is, today I realized that people told me that our HVAC system had gone out. And they came in and they said, our heating system, and so they said, well, it'll cost you $15,000 to replace it. But you can actually get a repair for $7,200. Well, $7,200 coming out your budget, cash, when you're dealing with month-to-month expenses is kind of difficult. So you have to be able to go to a bank and borrow that kind of money. And I'm not saying that our Cornerstone will avail itself of it, because we have someone who will give us an